safety. Adam Carriker, the defensive end. And I'm pretty well convinced he's going to go in the first round come springtime. And he is smothered and sacked back in the 45 by Carriker. I mean, he is a beast at defensive end.
Man, I don't know. If you don't watch that and your hair on your arms don't raise up, you're not a true Husker fan. Welcome to Wired Access, all access granted, where we get raw and real. Today, my guest is former Cornhusker, former St. Louis Rams, and former Washington Redskins, and Adam Carriker, and the owner and runner of Carriker Chronicles. Of course, this is Wired Access StreamYard, where it is brought to you by the Omaha Beef Arena football team. Make sure to go support them as they are looking to go back to the championship in 2026. Heck, I mean, former Tommy Armstrong was two-time MVP, two-time champion for them, and came back this year again, tried to do it for a three-peat. But you, Adam Carriker, know how that goes for a three-peat. It's never easy. It's never always something that you can just do.
Oh, yeah. The fact that he came back at all, basically came out of retirement, like.
Well, he had that shoulder surgery, you know, he just didn't think it was going to heal. So.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny. I'd run into him randomly around town, obviously, you know, running into him at a Nebraska game. There's always a chance Tommy Armstrong is going to be there, but I saw him there. I saw him at a women's basketball game back in November, and he just kind of got the feeling like he was done. And so I just kind of thought he was done, and then he comes back and he balls out again, and he's doing his thing. And so it's always cool to see a former Husker doing well.
Well, once again, I appreciate anybody tuning in on whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, or going to check it out later on YouTube. We can't do what we do without you guys. And today's a big announcement. Adam and myself have been kind of working on this for months. I reached out to him because if you follow the show, I did an interview with Prince Amukamura and Brandon Kinney when they were doing their football camp at Memorial Stadium. And I kind of saw Adam Carriker was doing a football camp with other former Huskers. And I just wanted to promote it because I think sometimes people miss those opportunities of seeing and kind of following those who have done it before and kind of learning from people that have experienced it. I appreciate you answering the doorbell, you know, and seeing it because I'm sure people reach out all the time. And then you kind of reached out and you were asking what I do. I kind of explained this year. I kind of split my podcast where I went into all access granted, which we're on now, raw and real, where I wanted to meet the athlete or meet my interviewee wherever they want to do, whether it's live on a stream like this, whether it is at a gym, at their basketball court, whatever makes them comfortable. And I think it just kind of changes the atmosphere. Of course, I know you and I have tried to do an in-person interview. I just feel our energies are so much the same, where it's just all wall to wall, balls to the wall, and we're ready to go. So I appreciate you, one, offering the opportunity to join Carriker Chronicles. It's an honor to be a part of a great group of other podcasts on your platform. And maybe you could kind of explain to those who don't know about your platform, and then we can go into some interview stuff.
Yeah, so kind of a big announcement. You're going to be joining, Wired Access is going to be joining CarrikerChronicles.com. So CarrikerChronicles.com is the website. We have got, obviously, Wired Access. Let me look at the number. I think it's about 13 to 14 podcasts there as well. We've got, you know, guys like Andrew Jurassic and Bobby Snyder, who's now doing some stuff with Husker Online as well. He's been working with Daily Nebraska. He's been working with us. So a lot of these guys that are writing articles, okay, my stuff is posted there, the Carriker Chronicles, the Adam Carriker Show from The Ticket. There's an individual on like Nebraska or Husker Historian on X. He posts all these videos from yesteryear that nobody else has or nobody else posts. And so we dubbed him Husker Tapes, and his stuff appears on the website. We've obviously got merch information about the aforementioned football camp as well. And if anybody wants to bring me in to do a speaking gig, you can hit me up there as well. We've got a newsletter, all sorts of things. So the website is something that's still kind of new. It's not even 2 years old. I think we've had, I don't know, 6-7 million website views, visitors in the past, not even 2 years. And so we're excited to welcome you. We're excited to welcome Wired Access to the website as well. So everyone can check out everything that you're doing, your show, and what you're doing in the future at carrikerchronicles.com.
Well, Adam, of course, many know you for the Huskers side. Some people know you for the NFL side, but I think the after football is a great thing to get into. Of course, your family, you got a lot going on there. But, when I think of it and I look at like your history and I think of you were born in Hastings in a small town, but you didn't live here long enough to gain that Nebraska feeling right away. You move off to Washington. Like, back then compared to now is not the same when it comes to recruiting or when it comes to going to a college. Like, what all do you remember just about how even Nebraska came back into your life for even choosing to be a college for you? Because it isn't like nowadays where everybody can reach out. You really got to push yourself to get out there.
Yeah, so when I was 3, born in Hastings, same hospital my dad was born in, but when I was 3, his job took him upstate of Washington. So my dad's probably the biggest Husker fan I've ever met in my life. So I grew up like every Saturday dictated what I could get away with Sunday through Friday, or what I couldn't get away with Sunday through Friday in the Carriker house. Because if Nebraska won, I could probably get away with more. If Nebraska didn't, I was walking on already broken eggshells. So every Saturday, I'd kind of sit next to my dad and we watch college football. And obviously, college football and the whole entire world revolves around what happens on the Nebraska game on Saturdays. And so it's almost like he didn't even realize what was happening next to him on the couch. Forward to high school. And we really had to reach out to Nebraska. I was a quarterback. My high school team was not great. We were 0-9 my senior year. And so it was a bit of an interesting process. They flat out at first told me, you're not good enough to play here. So I thought that they were kind of off the radar and not a realistic option. It kind of, worked out all right that they ended up offering me last minute. But yeah, Nebraska never left my radar. One of the reasons I think I enjoy talking Husker sports so much now is, I'd go to school, Nebraska mollywops Florida 62-24. I go to school the next day. Nobody cares. And I'm just like, nobody here for me to talk to. I do remember one of the kids I grew up with said something about, man, Nebraska killed Florida last night. But that was literally it. That was like one sentence, one time. And I wanted to talk more in depth and they weren't interested. So now I get to talk this for a living and people seem to be interested. And it's interesting because it's something I never would have ever, like, I saw a speech therapist for 6 years growing up, kindergarten through 5th grade. I'm one of the quietest kids, not even kids. We're talking probably all the way through my NFL career. I'm probably one of the more quieter people you would have ever met. It really wasn't until the end of my NFL career when someone asked me to do a wrestling podcast with them because I'm a pro wrestling fan. And it kind of morphed from there. Like there wasn't even a camera. It was just us and something that recorded our voices because I don't want to be on camera. And then it started to get some traction. 106.7 The Fan out in DC picked it up. And we still weren't on camera. But then people would start to listen. They'd be like, well, we want to hear a little bit of football. So then it became Fourth and Pain, which was that was the name of the show. It was a perfect blend of wrestling and football, Fourth and Pain. And then gradually we started doing some with the camera. And if you go back, if you have nothing to do, you can Google Fourth and Pain. You'll see myself and Chuck Carroll. Our size difference is very noticeable, even sitting in the chairs. But I always have a hat on backwards. And I still do cover it up so you couldn't see it. So a lot of times now I'll kind of wear the hat just because I got used to it. Like right now, I don't have it on. No sweat, as you can see. But back then, I wore it because I'd be dripping with sweat, and the hat would cover it up during the show. I'd be so nervous. And I had a co-host, so if I ever got stuck or I couldn't think of something like Chuck talk for a living, he'd just step right in. And as time went on, I kind of got more comfortable speaking, and I found that, because back then social media wasn't as much a thing. Players having podcasts and your own voice wasn't such a thing. You really depended on the media to speak for you and about you. And I kind of discovered, like, if I'm the one talking, I don't need to depend on anybody to say what I want said or to say things accurately, because sometimes that wasn't the case. And I found that I actually kind of enjoyed it. Other people seemed to enjoy it, and it just kind of morphed from there.
Well, I like some key hits there to your story. Obviously, you said your dad was the biggest fan. When you look at that, my dad, I've said it before on my podcast, we lived in the Netherlands for 4 years because I'm an Air Force brat. So my grandma would always save the newspapers. My dad honestly has probably from 1970 something, easily into the 2000s, he would take the paper from Sunday and clip out like the highlights or like the stats. So like if you want to go back and catch any of your games of what you did, and the fact that he did it when we lived overseas, like we come back, my grandma has all of these papers. Like that to me is what really sets Nebraska fandom at a whole like another level where you're like, people really, that's all they had, and when you come from a state where you don't have the pro team and you don't have all those extras, it's a little easier to lock in. So it's a good thing that your dad stuck to his guns, kept it out there in Washington. I mean, Washington really didn't do big in football for some time, but and then the fact that you were a quarterback, I mean, most people would never realize that. And then of course, to turn out to be an NFL defensive lineman. And I mean, did you ever even play D-line in high school at all?
My sophomore year, I knew there was a decent chance I was going to start at quarterback at some point. I think it might have been game 2, maybe game 3. I became the starter. And my Coach Hall, looks at me and he goes, "I don't want you getting hit." So during the offensive priority of practice, you're going to go with the quarterbacks. During the defensive priority of practice, you're going to go play DB. Technically, I was a safety, but I was with the DB. So I'm out there 6'4", 215. And, most kids in high school that are DBs, they're like 5'10", 5'11", 170, 180. So that was interesting. Yeah. Then my junior year, Coach Hull comes up to me and he goes, "I really don't want you getting hit." So, no, I didn't play any D-line. I think even as a freshman, in freshman games, I might have been a linebacker. I don't even remember. I actually don't have any recollection or memory of my freshman football games on defense at all. But I'm pretty sure I played defense. I just don't remember. My junior year, he comes up to me and he goes, "I really don't want you getting hit at all. You're not even going to play defense in practice." So the offensive priority of practice, I was the quarterback. The defensive priority of practice, I was the scout team quarterback. So I didn't even play defense in any way, shape, or form my junior year. Going into my senior year, I was like, "Hey, Coach, I really don't like quarterback." I never wanted to play quarterback. Going into 7th grade, my first year of football, my dad was like, "You're big, you can throw." I was a baseball kid growing up. I was a pitcher. And he goes, "You need to play quarterback." I never once wanted to play quarterback. Because this makes sense. I wanted to be a wide receiver. That's what I wanted to be as a wide receiver.
Man, those line up so well. And think to know that you made it to the NFL along with playing at a top D1 college. Like that right there, if that doesn't blow your mind and you're watching this, I don't know what else could blow your mind because one, no defense, no D-line, wanted to be a wide receiver, was a quarterback, didn't want to be a quarterback. Like I couldn't imagine even the thought of getting to Nebraska and going, where am I going to play and what am I going to do?
Are you still there?
Yeah. I'm still here.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just saying like how crazy it was, like all the positions you might have played, you could have played, but none of them had to do with what you made it to the NFL. So as a fan of football, these are the stories that, kind of why like I like sharing no matter what college kids go to. If you put the work in and you do the right things, you can't cancel yourself out to get into where you want to be at the next level.
It's interesting because going into back in middle school, I wanted to play wide receiver. Honestly, probably what I should have been. I should have either bought into quarterback because that is what I did for a long time. And actually, I was higher recruited as a quarterback than I ever was a defensive end, largely because I didn't play defensive end for a long time. I probably should have either bought into playing quarterback or asked to be a tight end. But going into my senior year of high school, I went to Coach Hull and I was like, "I don't like playing quarterback." I said, my words were, "If I'm going to throw something, I'm going to go play baseball. Like I play football because I want to hit people." And so he's like, "Well, we still need you to play quarterback." I was like, "All right." My backup quarterback was not phenomenal. I'm like, "Fine, I'll still play quarterback." I go, "But I want to play defense." And so that was my first year that I can ever remember playing defensive line. and I had funny looking pads because, linemen have big old pads. Quarterbacks need small pads so you can throw. So they had to like custom make pads at the Oregon State football camp because that's where our team won every year. Legit, I went into their equipment room and they had to custom make pads for me because one was huge, one was small. The downside was I was playing on the line. And so this shoulder got beat up quite a bit from playing on the line. So my arm was sore, but I'd warm it up and I'd get going. I'd be good to go. But yeah, it was kind of funny how that worked out.
Who was your connection to Nebraska, and who kind of helped you get into Nebraska?
So my high school coach took great pride in helping get kids into college. As I mentioned, we were 0-9. The team across the river, Pasco, was undefeated, won the state championship. They put 2 kids into college. We put 3. Now, the other 2 kids, it was smaller, relatively unknown, maybe D3 or whatever the case may be, colleges. But Pasco only put 2 in. We put 3 in. And obviously I went to Nebraska. So he went out of his way, knowing that Nebraska was my dream, to get a hold of Nebraska. So George Darlington was the one that recruited the West Coast. So he was the guy that technically recruited me. And then obviously Solich was the head coach. Nelson Barnes was the defensive line coach. But my main recruiter was Darlington. I don't even hardly ever remember talking with Nelson Barnes, to be honest with you, but a couple of times. He's the guy that told me you're not good enough to play at Nebraska, by the way. And that was, in his defense, that was the football camp that they had before my senior season. So you got to keep in mind, I hadn't played defensive line like maybe ever. I think I was a linebacker in middle school, but I don't even remember. I just remember playing quarterback the whole time. But at the end, after my last game my senior year, I obviously improved and got better. My last game my senior year, we played a triple option offense. So they ran the ball a ton. So there's lots of opportunities to get tackles. And as a defensive end, I got 22 tackles that game. We sent that game film to them, and that was what prompted them to actually kind of be interested in me. And his words to me were, "You've improved a lot since I last saw you in August." I look back on it now, though, it's still really weird. I had almost no relationship with the defensive line coach before I came here. It was Darlington and it was Solich, and mostly Darlington, who was the DB's coach at the time.
Yeah, it's everybody's journey to get to where they want to be. Most of them think it's like just this straight line. And that's why I always love sharing the stories, because it kind of hones those kids who are going through it right now, right? Like, they're like, maybe I'm not hearing from the right coach, or maybe I'm not hearing from right division. But of course, you got family behind you telling you, no, you're going to go do what you want to do. How do you stick with it so hard at that time that you remember? Like, what was the ultimate thing that made you go, I'm going to stick with this even though someone told me no?
Well, I was going to go somewhere. So baseball and football, I played a couple years of basketball as well, but like baseball and football, that was where the decision was going to be, because I was better at baseball. And honestly, I was higher recruited as a quarterback than defensive end. Long story short, I tore my UCL my sophomore year of high school pitching.
Ooh.
Okay. It's otherwise known as Tommy Johns. Now, back then, they didn't use that wordage with me. They never said you have Tommy Johns. Okay. This was like 2000, 2001. They just simply said you tore your UCL. It's like the ACL of the elbow. And this was going into my junior year. You can't lift. You can't do football, basketball, baseball. You have to miss everything for an entire year. I was like, okay, I'll still have my senior year, because I thought I was going to play baseball after high school. Like, that's legit what I thought. Football was starting to get some momentum. Offer. And I was like, okay, I'll have senior. Will I be able to pitch? They're like, it's 50-50. I was like, wait. So I have to miss everything, and I might pitch my senior year. And so I sat there and I looked at him, and I was like, because I was getting to the point where I was going to have to decide, what am I going to emphasize, football or baseball? I was like, if I just want to go hit people and play football and lift weights, do I have to fix this? They're like, no. I was like, I'm going to go do that. I did ask, because my high school coach was like, we need you to play quarterback. I did ask, can I throw a football if I don't have the surgery? I fully expected them to say no, and that's not what they said. They said, no, you can throw a football. And I was like, how can that be? And they're right. I never had the surgery. My junior, senior year, I never missed a day of throwing because of my elbow. And so the difference is, with baseball, you're coming all the way back. You got this torque and this whiplash. With football, it's much different. There's very minimal torque and whiplash. Now my elbow would get sore and I'd have to ice it. But like I said, I never missed a day of playing quarterback because of my elbow. And so it's interesting. My junior year happens. I've decided to emphasize football. It was too risky in baseball. It didn't make any sense. And I really emphasized football. Nebraska's like, you're not good enough to play here, but I was going to go somewhere and play. Like I knew I was going somewhere. I wasn't, it wasn't Nebraska or bust. In my mind, it was Nebraska and then everybody else, but it wasn't Nebraska or nothing. Yeah. And it was funny going into my senior year of baseball, my Coach Marquardt, had me go out and he had me practice pitching. He's like, we're just going to see what happens. You didn't have the surgery, but you've had an entire year off, entire year to heal. We'll just see what happens. And so he put me out there the first game my senior year. I pitched 2 innings. It was so bad after the first 2 innings, he didn't send me back out for the 3rd inning. And it was so bad, he never brought up pitching again the rest of the year, and I never asked him about it. Like, it was just like, it was never brought up again. Like, we just knew that chapter's done. Like, it's no more.
Did it hurt though? Like what was like that feeling? I mean, I couldn't imagine and people don't like when you have those strains,
Yeah.
It's either get repaired or for life.
It's crazy because I could still play quarterback, but even with the year off, I couldn't pitch or even close. And actually, I might have just DH'd my senior year. I think I played first. I either first or DH'd. Yeah. In baseball. But I remember, and even to this day, I'll go out and I'll throw batting practice to my kids now, or someone will want to play catch. Like I can do all of that. It's not near what it used to be, that's for sure. But it was like, I don't know how else to put it. It was gone. That's the only way I can tell you how because I threw 95 as a sophomore. Like it was gone. It was just gone. Like my arm didn't feel the same. I admittedly I was doing football lifting, which is not pitching lifting, so that didn't help either. It was just gone. And
you probably didn't do the arm stretches, right? Like you probably did very minimal arm stretches.
I thought I was done with pitching. So when he brought it up going into my senior year, I was caught off guard. I was like, okay, sure, why not? What's the worst that happens? I go out and suck. Apparently, I went out and sucked, and that was that. But it felt tight. It was like tight is the only way I can describe it. And like any of that torque, any of that, it was gone. I couldn't do it anymore. Not anywhere near, not even average, because he never even put me out there as an average pitcher after that, honestly. So
no fill-in innings, no bullpen.
Nope.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
It was crazy because he never brought it up. I never brought it up. I remember when he said he sent someone else out for the 3rd inning. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I kind of hope he just never brings it up again. And he never did. So.
So you get to Nebraska football and if you think of your size compared to the size at a D1 level, how do you feel like you were at when you first stepped on Nebraska, and how did you end up getting to the size that you were before NFL?
I was 6'6", 247 the day I walked on campus. The end of my senior year of football, I was 225. So I didn't play basketball my senior year. Even though I was baseball, I wasn't doing anything extra. Like I would go to practice, I go to games, and then it was lifting and getting ready for football. Like I was just doing it because I wanted to do it as my last chance. But everything was football oriented. So I put on 22 pounds from the end of my senior year of high school football to the day I walked on campus. I think it was July 9th, I want to say. It was sometime after the 4th, but in early July. And I remember I walked into the weight room and I did a workout and whatnot. The other defensive end that came in with me was Jay Moore, one of the top recruits in the entire country. I think he was the number 7 defensive end in the entire country. So here was the number 7 defensive end in the entire country and a kid they originally told wasn't good enough to play. So we're here together, and I think it was the first time we'd met. And I didn't work out with him. He was already working out. And I remember watching him bench 315 as a, true freshman defensive end. And he made it look fairly easy for whatever the reps he did were 3, 4, 5, whatever it was. I went over and I got buried under 275. They had to
assist
it off my chest. And I remember thinking, I'm going to back that guy up for the next 4 years. Like those are my thoughts. Now, gradually, by the time I was a redshirt freshman, a year later, I was 260. As a sophomore, 270. As a senior, 280. If I could go back and change something, I would have stopped putting on weight there. My senior year, I actually got up to 295. So size, by the time I was ready to play, was never really an issue. I just had to get there.
And of course, you went through college and you had injuries for the ankle. What do you think is something, especially now that if you can look back and you could tell people, what's something that might help people in their ankles and maybe help prevent some of that? What's one of the things that you wish you would have known back then that you might know now?
I mean, the ankle's kind of a tricky thing.
Oh boy.
Could you hear me?
No. All right. Ankle was a tricky thing. You're good.
Yeah, ankles are a tricky. Only do so much prehab, which is pre-strengthening. So hopefully you don't go to have to do rehab because you got hurt. Hopefully you're preventative type strengthening. But the ankles kind of are what they are to a degree. There's certain things you can do, but we taped the ankles. It was mandatory. At first, I threw a fit like a pouty child because I never taped my ankles, and then it feels weird, and I didn't like it. But they were always taped. So we always had that support, and you do some stuff. You can do balance stuff, and you can do some strengthening, and you can do some band work. I didn't do any of that before. Do I have to do it for every body part to prehab? Like, I didn't know the ankles were going to be an issue. Knowing what I know now, ankles tend to be a bit of an issue. Probably ankles and knees, probably the two most frequently things you're going to run into, and then the shoulders. And every good strength and conditioning program will have stuff for the shoulders anyway. So it's hard to do stuff specifically for the knee outside of just doing the quads. So then the ankles tend to be some things you can try to focus on specifically. I would say balance work, stability work, band work are some of the best things that you can do, and making sure you do get a good tape job and you're just smart with what you're doing.
When you look back on just your college career, what's one thing I wouldn't say regret, but maybe you didn't accomplish what you might have put as a goal? And what's one thing that you set forth and you knew this is something that you ended up obviously finishing and accomplishing for,
You see this? There's no ring here.
Oh man, that hits hard.
There's no ring here.
I feel you.
There's no ring. There's a wonderful wedding ring here. There's no ring here. Like, that's the answer.
I got you.
Like,
got all them kids on that social media. No, I'm joking.
World Championship game in Kansas City. Neither. So that's probably the biggest thing to me.
Well, and it's funny because that championship game, that was when it snowed, right?
That's still to this day the coldest game I've ever played in.
Okay, so I was blessed to have a friend's dad who got us third row tickets in the end zone. We have Matt Herron's family just to our left. And yeah, that was the coldest game I've ever been to. That was the coldest thing to sit in that stadium. Just the snow and the fact that there is no clearing nothing. You got to clear your own seat and you got to make it what you want of it, and then, like you said, the loss just makes the ride home colder, but I can only imagine being the player. What do you think is the difference on that field back then that nowadays is different? Because I can tell you the temperature's not the same on the fields anymore like it used to be when you were playing.
As far as the fields being warmer or colder?
Yeah, I mean, some of them have, obviously they have added things that they've added to fields nowadays. I mean, look at they have some stadiums that are adding wind guards, so then they're blocking out, some of I think that, or even more domes. I think you're kind of getting away from like that fresh. I mean, you played for the Rams, about all the dome stuff,
I mean, I honestly don't know. I haven't been on that field in about 10 years, and it sounds like there's been a lot of change. I mean, I've been there, but I haven't played on it. Yeah. We had heated seats, which honestly I didn't like. I don't like being hot. I really don't. I don't mind being a little cold. Like, I don't mind playing in cold weather games at all. It's heat that I don't like. So our benches were heated, and they were all heated. So if you wanted to sit, you had to sit on them, and I actually didn't like that. I don't know. I was probably kind of weird that way, but that was a really cold game. But I don't know, cold didn't bother me as much as like extreme heat because that would wear me out and make me tired as a big guy.
Yeah. So of course you go through the draft process and you think of like going through that, being a first round draft pick. What do you remember just even about your moment for even the workouts and going to do your all that stuff? Because I think I've asked others kind of their thoughts when it comes to the draft and going through the process and it's just not plain simple. You just go work out and everything's good. There's a lot more that people don't understand that happen at these things. What was your memory of just going through that process?
Moved down to Houston and I trained for the combine, probably 2 months down there. Also the Senior Bowl when I was there. I remember the Senior Bowl, when you're going against the best seniors in the country. I don't know. I practiced really, really well. I felt like I helped myself at the Senior Bowl quite a bit. Go to the combine. That was a miserable experience. I'm going to be honest with you. I was up till like 2, 3 in the morning every night doing interviews. And I am not like my wife can operate on 3, 4 hours of sleep. It's inhumane. I can't. And so it was like 3, 4 straight nights of that. By the time we tested the last day, I was exhausted, just so exhausted. My memories of doing the actual combine itself are so hazy and foggy because I was just so tired. Like some of my numbers at the combine were fine. I was frustrated with a couple of them. But then you go to the pro day. I ran 2/10 faster at the pro day. How do you go from a 4.9 to a 4.7? Like, how does that happen? I didn't all of a sudden get that much faster. I don't know. Maybe just a better start, maybe just a little bit clearer mentally or fresher physically. I don't know. I was just so tired at the combine. And not everybody was up till like, maybe it wasn't 2 or 3. Not everybody was up till like midnight or 1 doing interviews, but then you had to get up early. They had these different like P tests and all this other stuff that you had to go do and mental tests. And so it was just short nights. So I didn't really enjoy the combine very much. I need my sleep.
Do you think that you would have still had the opportunity if you would have just done a pro day, like backed out of the combine? Do you think that's still an option, or do you think the combine has to happen in order for you to get that opportunity in the first round?
You got to keep in mind, back then it was different. I think the only guy who sat out the combine my year was the number 1 pick, and that was Jamarcus Russell. Everybody else did it. Even Calvin Johnson, who ended up being the number 2 pick, he wasn't going to run the 40, and then a bunch of guys were giving him crap. And in shoes that he borrowed from somebody else, he ran like a 4.2 40. Everybody else did everything. It wasn't like it is today where you pick and choose and everybody goes to the draft. There was like 3 guys or maybe 5 guys that went to the draft back then. So things have changed a lot. I think they would have been like, what are you doing? Plus, I'm known for hard work. I'm known for showing up. I'm known for working hard. They would have been like, wait, that doesn't match it would have raised unnecessary questions. So
I like that. So you, of course, get drafted by the St. Louis Rams, and you get to play in the Dome. What's kind of like your difference from, of course, the college where you're out at Husker Stadium, Memorial Stadium there, and then you go into Dome land? Is that something that you were liking? Did it help you at all? Did it change like your mental when it came to the game, or was it something like was just another part of the game?
So I don't know if this is accurate or not, but this is kind of how I see it. Like, cold actually affects me a little bit more now than it used to. And when did that start? It started when I was in St. Louis. So I've always blamed the Dome. I would walk around campus at Nebraska in January, February. I'd go do a winter workout in the morning. I'd shower, I'd eat, I'd go to class. I would legit walk around in like shorts and a cutoff shirt in January. It's like 10, 15 degrees, snowing, cold. I loved it. It didn't, like, when I say cold didn't bother me, it didn't bother me. Ever since St. Louis, I legit get cold. I feel like the Dome made me soft. I've always felt that way. I don't know if it's accurate or not. The Dome itself, I've played in other domes. I feel I prefer an outdoor stadium. I prefer grass over turf. I prefer an outdoor stadium over a dome. To me, that's just more football. Sometimes every once in a while, they'll do like an outdoor basketball game. That feels weird to me. That should be inside. I don't want to overthink it, but that's just that I enjoyed playing on grass and outdoor stadiums just a little bit more.
Of course, you played for the Rams for a few years, and then you go to Washington, D.C. What was kind of your biggest transition for yourself to go from St. Louis to Washington? And obviously, you know, you were able to stay at Nebraska. You didn't have to go outside or come from an outside team to come in. You were able to stay with Nebraska. What do you think was the biggest difference between the Rams and Washington for you?
Biggest adjustment?
Yeah. Yeah, like the biggest adjustment to just the change of atmosphere, but also just the style.
It was a 3-4 defense versus 4-3. And naturally, I'm probably a little bit more of a 3-4 end. The other thing, the Rams put me at nose guard in a 4-3 defense. I'm not your typical 4-3 nose guard. But I don't know. It was a very veteran group when I got to St. Louis. It was interesting because some of those guys were a little bit later in their career. And I'm trying to put this the right way because we're talking about Hall of Famers, Super Bowl champs, like legends in the game. But there kind of comes a time when maybe you're done. And even though you're still playing, you're done. And I kind of got that vibe sometimes in the locker room in St. Louis. I hope that makes sense and comes across.
Yeah.
In DC, it was not like that at all. Even guys who were close to retiring, like it was, we're here, we're fighting to beat the Cowboys and the Giants, and we're trying to win the NFC East, which we did one year. It was just a different vibe. St. Louis was a great city. It's baseball's probably number one there, the Cardinals. In DC, it reminds me actually of Nebraska. Like it is a passion, it is a religion, the football out there. Everything is dissected, 365, 7 days a week. I guess I just related a little bit more to that because that's what I was used to at Nebraska, and that's what I look forward to at Nebraska. And then it was a little bit more similar out in DC. For me, even though it was farther away from anything I'd ever known than St. Louis was, it felt a little bit more like home to me immediately. So I actually felt like I acclimated there a little bit more comfortably, if you will.
When you look at all of your football career and you have to make those rough decisions of just even retiring from football, how was that for you, and kind of what started that ball for you to go, okay, this is the time? Because some players wait until it's too long. Some players maybe do it too early. I mean, everybody has their different views on where they might have been or where they could have. But where do you feel about your retirement when you decided?
The only thing I enjoyed less than the NFL Combine was my retirement process. Like, I loved my time at Nebraska. There were things I loved about St. Louis. I immensely enjoyed my time in DC. Like, I enjoyed so much of it. If somebody were to be like, hey, what were your 2 least favorite things since you left high school when it comes to football? It'd be the Combine. It's 4 days and I still won't let it go, like 17 years ago. In the retirement process, because I tore the quad tendon in my knee. And I remember Dr. Annunziata, the Redskins doctor, looking at me and be like, that's no big deal. It's just a typical tear. We'll fix it. You'll be back ready to go in 5 months. A month later, I'm doing the Redskins protocol in the machine they told me to do it in. It's called CPM machine, which somebody told me the other day they don't use anymore because of exactly what happened to me.
Oh.
So you put your leg in it and it bends your knee for you, because getting the flexion in the knee back is the hardest thing. Okay. And I'm in it, and all of a sudden I just feel immense pain. So I call the head trainer. I'm like, dude, this thing hurts so bad. I can't go to sleep. It's like at night. I'm like, this thing hurts so bad. The MRI it the next morning, I tore the quad tendon again in the CPM machine doing their protocol. Then Dr. Annunziata said, well, this is a little bit different. Now you've torn it twice in a month. And so the recovery for this is going to be unique. And I remember it was incredibly painful after that second surgery because it was getting cut open again already. The process was not phenomenal. So I got to the point where I couldn't bend my knee. You got to get to 90, right? They want you to get to 90 to start with. Then you get to 105 and the goal's 120. And then you can be cleared as long as you're strong and you can move. I couldn't get to 90. And so I had to go under for surgery. They had to cut it open and remove a bunch of scar tissue. I got to 105 and I got stuck, and they couldn't figure out why. They did all these x-rays, all these MRIs, couldn't figure out why. I did a CAT scan. A freaking bone had grown in there. A freaking bone, gigantic bone. So then the Nationals team doctor, I got tired of going into the Redskins team doctor. I think he was actually scared I was going to sue him after I retired. And my lawyers told me I should have. I didn't. But anyways, I went to the Nationals team doctor, Weemy DeWogie, who was one of my favorite guys I've ever met to this day. He took the bone out. And so we're talking like 18 months after the initial tear at this point. I was on crutches for 5 months initially. For the first
a lot of body mass, right?
Yeah. And for the first year, I couldn't walk normal. I'd be walking. I remember walking down the mall carrying Christmas presents and my leg would just give out.
Oh,
That connection from my brain to the knee. It just, the synapses wouldn't fire, you know? Plus the muscles were weak and everything else. And so they do the scar tissue. We got the 2 initial surgeries. The bone grows. We're 18 months later. Honestly, there's another surgery in there because I had 6 knee surgeries. I can't even remember what it was.
6.
But
God,
yeah,
dang.
so we're 5 in at this point. We're 18 months, and I just started to do cutting. Like you start lightly jogging. A lot of it's anti-gravity treadmills, so you're not running on your full body weight. Then you can run on your full body weight. Then you go outside. And then maybe you walk up and down stairs and then you start jogging outside. And then when you get to the point where you start cutting, that's when you're making serious progress. That's the most difficult thing to do coming back from a knee injury. And it went phenomenal. I went home that night. It was probably the best day I'd had in about 18 months. I felt so good. I'm like, Ange, I'm going to do it. My wife, I'm going to do it. Nobody's ever come back from 5 knee surgeries and played in the NFL. I'm going to do it. And I was so driven to do that. My knee blew up that night. Huge. So I called the head trainer. They looked at it again. A freaking infection came in, an infection. And so my knee blew up. So that's when the Redskins released me. Long story short, an additional 2 years goes by. We moved down to Pensacola. I'm at the Andrews Institute. We're down there for like 6 months, moved the whole family so I can rehab and everything else. Not the worst thing in the world. I mean, I'm rehabbing and working out all day, but we're like on the beach. So, you know, There's a lot of beach time, a lot of pool time. So worst things in the world. I finally get cleared, but nobody will look at me. I'm now 6 surgeries deep. I've been out of the league for a few years. Like nobody will look at me. I remember my agent texted John Elway when he was the GM of the Broncos. And Elway just texted back, nah. Like NAH, nah. Like wouldn't even look at me. And I was
not even no thank you.
No,
We're
just
not
nah.
interested. Nah.
For 2 years, I have at the time, I have the phone number to way more GMs than any former player should have, and coaches and head coaches. I've texted with Bill O'Brien. I've texted with Ozzie Newsome. I've texted with all these guys because I was obsessed with just trying to get a shot. Like if I was done with the NFL, I was okay with that as long as I exhausted every option. If I didn't, that was going to bother me. It got to the point where it like started to affect our marriage. Like I was obsessed with trying to just get a chance.
Yeah.
And it tell you your lifelong dream is over. Tell you you're done. Tell you you need to do something else. Tell you everything you've ever worked for. No, you don't get to choose. You're done. That's a really hard thing to hear. And it was pretty miserable for me. I exhausted every option. I was up till 2-3 in the morning trying to get a try. I had one with the Ravens at one point. Jim Harbaugh was like, yeah, we'll fly you out tomorrow. I'm going to the airport and my agent calls, hey, Ozzie Newsome, the GM at the time, doesn't want to bring you out. Cancel the flight. And
while you're at the airport, ready
on the way to the airport in the car. And it was a really hard time because it was out of my control. I just wanted a chance. I don't know what would have happened. And just like, what do I do now? And everything I've ever known is over. Like, what? And it was really, really hard. And it wasn't until I could tell my wife, who's as supportive as you can find, it was causing problems between us. And that's when I was like, all right, I better be done.
You know, those hard decisions, you know, turn everything else in the future to where you are obviously today, because you made a strong decision, not just solo. You went with the wife and saw what it could be. And then now look, as things have grown and you now have other things going for you. You, of course, like you said, you brought up earlier about the wrestling radio show. And what I liked about that is I actually, you know, got to, I got to DJ when Hulk Hogan was doing his tour around here. And I have the plug and play chain, which, as you can see in the top left corner, the coverage that we do.
Yep.
I actually had him sign it. It's a big gold chain. That's probably about 10 pounds that the players get to wear. And on the back, it has his signature, and it was just, wrestling to me was my wife's soap opera. So I was able to watch it with her because that's what she grew up on. And I actually took her to Atlanta to watch the WrestleMania. And it's kind of crazy when you think of the way the sporting events go, right? Like I'm a 49ers fan. I'll never be able to go to a Super Bowl no matter how many times they go back to back to back because of the money wise. Like I just can't fathom spending that. But yet I can go to a WrestleMania sporting event, even if I wanted to take my whole family, and still spend not even a quarter of what it costs for like a football Super Bowl. It's just crazy to me because that is their Super Bowl, WrestleMania, and where did your passion even come from that, like for wrestling? Like obviously now I can see it in all your mannerisms and kind of it all fits who you are now. But like you said, that wasn't who you were prior to retirement.
My dad, we watched Hogan and Warrior and Jake the Snake and Rowdy Piper and all those guys growing up. The ironic part is when Hogan Bash at the Beach 96. I remember like the pay-per-view, you had to like go down and you had to like get the box to put on your TV or whatever in order to get it. I remember my dad didn't say much. I could tell he was pissed, but he didn't say much. He just gets up, unplugs the box, takes it back to the TV station, never said a word, never turned on wrestling again. Like he was done after that. So then I would sneak watch it. Like he previous channel button ready for Monday Night Football, but I'd have wrestling on. If he came out, I'd turn it to Monday Night Football. When he'd leave, it would go back to Raw or Nitro. I should tell him that some. It kind of stuck with me. And to this day, my dad does not approve of wrestling. He does not like that I watch it. He actually severely disapproves of it. And I'm like, you're the one who got me into it. But no, it's interesting because you've got all these great speakers like Tony Robbins and all these guys who speak publicly and do a phenomenal job. I'll turn on a Cena promo. And Cena's looked upon fondly now. There was a time when he was booed out of buildings, but it was always impressive to me that he could walk into a ring, be booed to high heavens, and he would walk out of the ring and they would be cheering him. That was always one of the most impressive things to me. The Rock, Stone Cold, like you literally your entire job depends on you being able to entertain with this microphone in your hands, thousands in attendance and millions watching. I'm going to shock people when I tell you it's not about the wrestling. That's predetermined. It's who can draw eyeballs, who can make money, and then the guy in the back determines who wins the match. And so a lot of that starts with the microphone. And so for those guys to be able to do it has always impressed me. I feel like it's underrated and undervalued how good they are. And so as opposed to watching like a phenomenal guy like Tony Robbins, I'll go watch 10 Rock promos or Austin promos or Cena promos or whatever. And so that's where my stuff tends to come from. I am being passed a note from my 10-year-old. Give me a second.
You're good.
Can we watch the baby? What? We don't have a baby. Yes, we're going to leave here in about 15 minutes.
This is what and it's funny, because even like your story of getting even to the microphone, like, that's kind of like how I did it is they had here at the local channel, they had like send in your 2-minute hype of Husker football. And so I sent it in and got picked 5 out of 25 and did this competition and turned it into a radio show with Damon on 1620. And then after that was during COVID, right before COVID. So like we had to make up stuff just to get people, but the ratings kept going and you keep people interested. And then people were like, well, how come you can do like interviews? And it's like, I listened to one of the best in the business for interviews. I don't like it's smut and all that. I get it. But when it comes to an interview of a person, Howard Stern is the best interviewer ever in this United States is my personal view, because he keeps you locked in. And it doesn't have to be like, even with you, I could have went all into stats. I could have went into everything. But when you can get people just to realize how down to earth other people can be, you just said on this, your number one struggle ever was retirement. Like just those thoughts and those things, and being able to put yourself to where people can relate and people can be like, I can now see that I may be in this point, but I can come out of it. I can get to that other side. I can rise above all that. So, and here I am going through all this process where I seriously was out of the radio and out of the doing anything for a year. And one guy who owns a baseball camp up here in facility, Brian Southworth, he goes, "Hey man, I got all this podcast equipment. I know you can do it. Would you want to do it?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man." Sure. And it was all audio first, and we're doing audio, but in the background, we're at his facility. You hear ping, 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 and I do 15 episodes, and you know how it is. Producing's not easy. And especially if you're a perfectionist, if you're one that wants good product, you're like, I don't know. Did 15, and then I was grateful that Damon said, "Come join me. Send them what you got." And here I am 3 years later, and now you're even listening. And I greatly appreciate the opportunity because I just want to share local athletes and people that have Nebraska ties. That's my number one thing. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. But you going outside of Nebraska and showing people that you can still have the love for Nebraska. You can still come back to Nebraska, and you've lived the life outside of Nebraska. And you don't have to stay here, but you can come back here when you're all done. It's those types of stories that I hope people understand. Like, if you don't get picked up by the College of Nebraska, or you don't get picked up by the local Nebraska, and you find success elsewhere, it doesn't mean you can't come back to the state and give back, And so I appreciate, one, the opportunity to share your story and to share these stories and in the future with Carriker Chronicles, and I really appreciate just the realness, and being live is a whole different story compared to what I've done before. Is all recorded, and it's all like you can edit, you can pull out, you can take things out, but I think when you break yourself down and you can keep people interested live, and that's what I could tell you what I grew to watch when I would watch the Carriker Chronicles, is the energy just made me want to do more. I interviewed JoJo Domandu, made me want to run through a wall. I interview you make me want to do something. And if we could share that with one more person, that's all that matters to me. And I appreciate those who are watching live. If you have a question, you could throw it in the comments. But Carriker, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story, and hope that we continue to grow, just all the brands together, because, there's no competition when you're telling stories.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate you having me. And I don't know, it's interesting. Had you told like 8-9-year-old Adam up in the state of Washington, halfway across, hey, one day you're going to get a play for Nebraska, I would have like exploded. My head would have imploded. And then, hey, kid, you say like 10 words a year. Now you're going to talk for a living. Like, no, I would have never paid attention to you again had you told me like that. That was so, like, playing for Nebraska was so unfathomable. Me talking for a living was just unreasonable, and you never know where life's going to take you. You never know where the journey is going to go. You never know how one thing might take you here, might take you there, might take you there. It's such an unpredictable, wild journey. Just, I try to get up every day and do the best I can and hang on for the ride, man. You just never know where it's going to go. It's like a roller coaster.
Well, I'll get you out of here on this. Of course, one thing that I always like to do, especially, yes, kids are the main. Yes. Hi. Welcome. But I'll get you out of here on this, because of course you are a big person that promotes Nebraska and talks about what's going on. You've seen the ups and downs since you've left Nebraska. How is it as a former player? How did those feelings go with that roller coaster, and how have you adjusted, and where do you think they are today? And before you answer this one, I do want to give a shout out. Nebraska did get 5-star out of Omaha Central. Torrey Pittman III, he committed today, so that's a huge gift for Matt Rule and his team as they continue to grow down there.
Yeah, no, that's big. Anytime you can get a highly recruited, talented, athletic player like that, that's huge. It's, dare I say, doubly important, to use, fancy lingo. Doubly important if they're an in-state recruit. So that's awesome. That's phenomenal. As far as, being a former player, and, Nebraska hasn't won quite as many games as, everyone would be hoping for, including the coaches, fans, and players. Again, this is like, when I was growing up, every Nebraska player had that. So that's something that still, is on my mind to this day. Every player is doing the best they can. At least I hope so. And every coach, I hope so, is doing the best that they can. And as long as we are just getting better. There was a day when we'd fire 2 9-win coaches. Okay, the year Solich was fired, we ended up with 10 wins. Now that 10th win came in the bowl game after he was let go, but I credit that to Frank Solich. And then obviously Pelini. Honestly, if Matt Rule, if he won 8 games this year, I'd be happy. I know that's not necessarily a jump, but as long as we're going in the right direction, I'd be happy. And I dare I say Matt Rule might be the beneficiary of some recent struggles, because now the expectations have been lowered. Again, we would fire 9-win coaches. Now we'd almost be happy. I'd be happy with an 8-win season. And I know everyone's talking about Nebraska could win 9 games, could win 10 games. I just did a show the other day. Is Nebraska the Indiana of this year? Because I saw a clip online where guys were like, Nebraska's this year's Indiana. They equated it a lot to our schedule, because it's considered the least difficult schedule of all the 18 teams in the Big Ten. I personally don't like that, because the argument is you're hoping the opponents aren't good rather than you think our team is good. Sometimes that does play in. Sometimes teams get more wins than they otherwise would because of a weak schedule. I just don't like looking at it that way or basing it off that way, because Indiana was a lot better than we thought before we were going to play them. Then Illinois, and then Wisconsin and Iowa weren't as good as we thought they were going to be. Obviously, we didn't beat Wisconsin. Hopefully that changes. For me, I just want to see us this year. I just want to see us going in the right direction. I want to see Dylan make the year 2 improvement. I want to see the offensive line. Donovan Raiola today said it's the best offensive lineman he's had in the 4 years he's been here. I want to see that. I want to see Emmett Johnson be the back that he can be. And I want to see our 3-stud receivers. And I want to see more guys step up, like Cortez Mills, Janirin Bonner. I want to see Heinrich Harburg show the world he's the football player that he is. Not just a tight end, but a football player. And can our defense, which has been number 11 in the country 2 years ago, number 19 overall defense in the country last year, can we stay a top 20 defense? Top 25? There's a lot of youth there. If we fall out of the top 30, that could be a challenge. So, those are the things I'm looking for. Mike Eckler, Can our special teams, this is not a jab. This is like, can we be average to start the year? Because we've not been average. We have cost ourselves games. Can we be average to start the year? And can we gradually get better throughout the year to, dare I say, maybe we're pretty good by the end of the year? Archie Wilson is a legit us having Eckler and what he does, that's got to give you some confidence, or hope, at least reasonable hope. Dare I say confidence that we're going to be better. Who the heck is going to win the field goal kicking battle right now? We got 3 field goal kickers. Is it like, hey, you've got 2 quarterbacks, you got none? Is it like 3, you've got none? I don't know, but I hope one steps up. So we'll see.
What's your prediction, and what's next for the Carriker Chronicles? I know you said you're starting to get everything back going.
Yeah. August 20th, next Wednesday, show comes back. I can't give you my prediction, because the headline of that show, at least what I have in my head right now, is will Nebraska win 9+ games?
Okay.
Because we hear about this jump. I've said I'd be happy with 8, and I'm going to say that on the show. But a jump isn't 8 wins. Not 7 to 8 is not a jump. 9 is the smallest thing you can consider a jump. I've even asked him not to, and he keeps doing it. So the question is, are we going to make a jump? Dare I say, are we going to get 9+ wins or more? So I can't give you a prediction. Figured it out yet. Number 2, that's going to be the headline of the show, and I can't spoil the whole show. I am actually going to interview Rule. It'll either be the 2nd or the 3rd show back.
Awesome.
I'm narrowing. We'll see which show it ends up being, but those are going to be the first couple of shows.
Well, guys, make sure to check it out. Carriker Chronicles, Wired Access, All Access Granted is now a part of it. All that I hope for this year is don't give us all the flair that we had for Colorado, where you got everybody on the hype train and turn around and go the opposite. That's all that I ask, because that feeling after that game when Bud comes out with them and all that, you needed that momentum the rest of the year. And we blew it all on that one. But here we go. We'll see what the next year brings. And thanks again, man. And throw up those bones, man.
Throw the bone.
Yes, sir. We'll see you guys. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. Make sure to like, follow, share. We'll see you next time. All right.